The Sunday dinner was supposed to be a celebration of my sister Chloe's new car. The air was filled with the scent of roasted chicken and the loud, boastful laughter of my brother, Mark, who was talking about his upcoming vacation to Greece. I sat at the far end of the table, mostly silent, listening to them discuss plans that didn't include me. This was the dynamic I had lived with for years, the reliable one, the one who stayed behind to handle the mundane details of our parents' lives while they focused on their successes. When the conversation finally lulled, I cleared my throat. My parents had been struggling with their mortgage for years, and 3 years ago I had moved back in to help. But helping had turned into me covering the entire mortgage, the utilities, and even the grocery bills while Mark and Chloe lived their lives debt-free. I had recently been hit with an unexpected medical bill and simply needed them to contribute a small portion of the rent for the month. "Mom, Dad," I started, my voice steady. "Since Chloe just bought a new car and Mark is headed to Europe, I was wondering if we could talk about the household expenses. I've been carrying the full rent and utilities for a while now, and I could really use some help this month." The room went silent. The clinking of silverware stopped. My mother didn't look at me with sympathy. She looked at me with irritation, as if I had just interrupted a beautiful symphony with a loud, discordant note. She set her glass down with a sharp thud. "Don't be so dramatic, Sarah," she said, her voice dripping with a casual cruelty that I had become far too accustomed to. "You live here, don't you? It's only right that you contribute. Besides, you're not out there building a career like Chloe or traveling the world like Mark. You're just the babysitter of this family. You keep the house running while the rest of us do the important things. That's your role." The laughter that followed from Mark and Chloe stung worse than the words themselves. My father didn't defend me, he just nodded, agreeing with the assessment that my labor, my money, and my time were simply expected, not valued. "Babysitter," I repeated quietly. The word felt like a cold stone in my stomach. Something in me cracked quietly but cleanly. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the realization that years of loyalty and sacrifice had been reduced to a service they felt entitled to. I didn't shout. I didn't beg for them to see my worth. I just looked at them one by one, memorizing the calm certainty on their faces. The decision was already made in their minds. I was a utility, not a daughter or a sister. I stood up, left my half-eaten dinner on the table, and walked out of the room. Behind me, I heard the faint murmur of justification, the sound of people convincing themselves they were right to dismiss me. Upstairs in my room, I sat at my desk. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I started making notes, thoughtful, deliberate plans. They thought calling me the babysitter would end the conversation and keep me in my place. They didn't realize it was the start of something much bigger. If I was just a service provider, then it was time to start acting like one. Hey, if you enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the bell. Your support means everything and helps me keep creating. Thank you so much. I began pulling up my bank records. For 3 years, I had quietly paid the mortgage through a private agreement I had made with the bank when my parents were facing foreclosure. Because my credit was the only one in good standing, the title had been restructured. On paper, I wasn't just a tenant. I was the primary leaseholder with a path to ownership. I gathered every utility bill, every property tax statement I had settled, and every receipt for the renovations I had paid for, the new roof, the fixed pipes, the updated electrical system. These weren't memories anymore. They were receipts. I spent the next 3 days in a state of quiet focus. I didn't argue with them at breakfast. I didn't complain when Mark left his dishes for me to clean. I was busy itemizing. I calculated my hourly rate for babysitting their lives, managing their appointments, handling their mail, cleaning the common areas, and maintaining the property. I added the 3 years of mortgage payments they had treated as my contribution, but which legally were payments toward a debt they owed. On Thursday morning, I didn't go to work. I went to a lawyer's office. I learned 2 very useful things. First, because I had been the sole payer of the mortgage and taxes for 3 years, I had a legal right to claim the equity I had built. Second, as the primary on the utility accounts, I had the power to shut them off at any time. I returned home and sat in the living room, waiting for them to return. When they walked in, laughing about a movie they had seen, I handed my mother a thick, professional-looking envelope. "What's this?" she asked, her smile fading as she saw the formal letterhead. "It's my invoice," I said calmly. "Since you've clarified that my role in this family is that of a babysitter and a service provider, I've decided to formalize our arrangement. That folder contains an itemized list of every mortgage payment, utility bill, and maintenance cost I have covered over the last 36 months. It also includes a bill for my babysitting services, the administrative work I do to keep this family from falling apart." My father scoffed, reaching for the papers. "This is ridiculous, Sarah. You can't charge your family for living in your own home." "Actually," I replied, my voice steady and cold, "it's my name on the bank's primary payment agreement, and since you've made it clear that I don't matter in the way Chloe or Mark do, I'm stepping out. You have 30 days to reimburse me for the equity I've put into this house, or I will be forced to move forward with a partition sale to recover my investment." The silence that followed was heavy. My mother's face turned a deep shade of red. "You would put your own parents on the street?" "No," I said, standing up. "I'm just giving you what you wanted. You wanted a babysitter. Well, this babysitter is resigning, and she's collecting her final paycheck." I didn't stay to hear their threats. I had already packed a bag. I moved into a small, sun-drenched apartment across town that I had quietly scouted weeks ago. I didn't give them the address. The next morning, the call started. First it was my mother, her voice high and frantic, demanding I come back and stop this nonsense. Then my father, using his old authority tone to tell me I was being ungrateful. Then Mark and Chloe, complaining that the Wi-Fi had been cut off and the power company had sent a final notice. I didn't answer. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I didn't read the texts. I spent that first weekend in total silence. It was the first time in years I didn't have to worry about someone else's dinner, someone else's bills, or someone else's ego. The weight of their judgment and their constant entitlement lifted off my shoulders. I realized then that freedom isn't given, it's claimed. And sometimes claiming it means letting go of the people who should have loved you the most. 2 weeks later, my lawyer called. My parents had realized they couldn't afford the house without my babysitting. They were being forced to downsize. They tried to send one last message through my sister, accusing me of ruining the family's legacy. I finally sent one short reply back. The legacy was built on my silence. I'm done being quiet. I haven't spoken to them since. My phone is quiet, my life is my own, and for the first time I'm not looking after anyone but myself. I didn't need their approval to heal. I did that on my own. I wasn't just the babysitter, I was the foundation, and once the foundation moves, the house they built on arrogance was bound to fall. If this story hit home, share it. Some wounds don't need revenge, they just need distance and growth. Remember, the best way to answer those who take you for granted isn't through anger, but through the life you build without them. Keep building.